Hi there, and welcome to the Mind Circus podcast. I'm your host, Karen Bartos. And today I have a very special guest for you to help me kick off this podcast. Her name is Heather Lahtinen. She is a very good friend of mine, but she also happens to be my business coach and my business mentor. I've been with Heather for over a decade. And over the course of working with her, she's watched me launch two businesses, helped me launch those businesses, and grow one of them to a six-figure level. And over the course of working with Heather, we talk extensively about mindset, what I like to call the mind circus. And that's the thoughts we tell ourselves. And if you're not careful, you can start to believe those thoughts and they can become a reality. It's something photographers struggle with as creatives, entrepreneurs, in fact, even human beings in general. So today, we're going to explore the topic that you are not your thoughts. So let's get started.
Welcome to the Mind Circus podcast, where we uncover the topsy-turvy thoughts of those we call creatives. The Mind Circus can be entertaining and daunting, but we need to uncover ways to be the ringmaster of our own mind circus. If you want to hear real stories from creatives who've plunged into the black abyss of the mind circus and managed to become the ringmaster, then join our host, Karen Bartos, a photographer, entrepreneur, and creative ringleader, as she'll ask direct questions to help listeners understand and be inspired to master their own mind circus and reach new levels of success. So find a seat and let's be part of the circus. Now here's your host, Karen Bartos.
Hey, Heather, I want to thank you for agreeing to be on the podcast, helping me kick this off. So tell me, what are we talking about today?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I have always adored you. I love working with you. You're a great friend and client. And one thing you and I love to talk about is the thoughts in our brain.
Yes.
Everything that we're thinking that's causing our mind circus, right? Would you say that's like the premise of the mind circus or the thoughts? Is that like correct?
Absolutely. And the mind circus has a permit to be in your mind. So the faster you can become the ringmaster and learn to deal with your thoughts, the better off you'll be.
Oh my gosh, I love that, because one of the things sometimes my clients are, I don't know if surprised by, or they just didn't realize, is like they think they're going to shut down these thoughts and evict the mind circus. And you're saying, nope, they are permanently here.
Not going anywhere, baby.
So you better figure out a way to manage those thoughts. So I just wanted to give an introduction to what I've learned about thoughts and how it's it's changed my own life, but it's helped me help my clients. And the premise is this: you are not your thoughts. Now, when you first heard that, like, take yourself back. You're like a normal person. I'm saying to you, you are not your thoughts. What were you thinking?
I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you mean I'm not my thoughts?
It makes no sense, right?
And we have thoughts all day long.
All day long. I think the new thing is like 65,000 a day or something. Like,
wow.
And we just most of us don't pay attention to our thoughts. Like, why would you? You're just thinking your thoughts. But the issue with that is then your thoughts are kind of running the show and you don't realize it. So it's happening beneath the surface. So my job as a coach is to help people bring more awareness to their thoughts, to just essentially think about what they're thinking about.
I love that.
Which I know sounds crazy, but it's true. So I want to start by saying, if everybody could just write that down, like, I am not my thoughts, it would be super helpful to just start there and then realize that thoughts are just sentences in your brain.
Right.
And they pop up unbeknownst to you, right? I mean, you're not thinking about them. They're just happening.
Right.
Always. And if you start to think about them, you become aware of how your thoughts are creating your life.
Yes. I love that.
Which is very empowering. Let me ask you this. When I was explaining this to you and we were like talking about it in coaching, and I was like, okay, you are not your thoughts. And did you know that you can actually control your thoughts? Did you believe me?
Oh, maybe when I first started coaching with you, perhaps not. But, if you can control your thoughts, you almost have like a superhuman power.
I would agree. Your thoughts are oftentimes automatic. So it's not like we're trying to stop them and control them in that regard. We're trying to become aware of that. Step one.
Become aware of them. Yes. Step one, become aware of your thoughts.
Just become aware that you have these thoughts. And then, and we're going to like cycle through this quickly, but this takes time in real life, obviously. You just become aware that you are thinking a thought. And then as you become more adept at that awareness, you start to question them. Like, is that actually true? But the very first thing you really, truly need to understand is I am not my thoughts, and I can prove it to you. Are you ready?
Okay, let's go.
Okay. If I ask a client to give me a thought download, which by the way, I recommend everybody does. If you're feeling overwhelmed, grab a sheet of paper and write down everything you're thinking. It's very helpful. It's called a thought download. If you write down all of your thoughts on a sheet of paper, and I'm holding up a notebook right now, I'm writing down all of my thoughts. If I look at this sheet of paper and I see my thoughts, I can clearly see that these sentences on paper, I am not these sentences. See, we're separate. Like, yes. Physically, I see these on paper and I am not these. Like, so that's the first step. Thoughts are sentences in the brain. I am not my thoughts. But let's take, for example, a thought like you have kids and maybe you're having a bad day and you think, I am a bad mom. You ever had that thought?
Oh, yeah.
Well, if we have that thought and we think, we don't think about that thought and we don't question it, then we could believe that we are a bad mom.
Exactly.
But are you?
No. So how does that happen? I mean, that thought becomes in your subconscious? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, well, it's just the brain is going to brain. That's all I can say about that. The brain does what it does best, which is look for problems and negativity and try to keep you alive. But the thing is, it's going to offer you this thought, your brain, not you, by the way.
Your brain. Okay. You have to make that distinction.
You do. You have to keep this separate. This is really, the language I'm using is very important, and it's by design. So you say, okay, my brain is telling me I'm a bad mom. Does my brain thinking I'm a bad mom actually make me a bad mom? No, of course not. And maybe I'm having a bad day and maybe I'm not showing up as my best.
Right.
But that does not, me thinking I'm a bad mom does not equal I am a bad mom. It's just a thought that you can then look at, like you pull out of your brain, write it down, look at it, and like, is that true? Am I a bad mom? Or did I just have a minute as a human? And by the way, these kids are insane. So let's not forget what we're dealing with.
Right, exactly.
So that doesn't make me so I am not a bad mom just because I think I'm a bad mom. Therefore, I am not my thoughts. I am not my thoughts. It's just a sentence in my brain. So, okay, I can look at that and ask myself, how does that feel to think like I'm a bad mom? Well, if I think it and I don't question it and I believe it, how am I going to show up?
Exactly.
I'm going to show up as a bad mom because I'm going to feel guilty. I'm going to feel badly. I might be passive aggressive. I might be mad at myself as well as mad at my kids. And then it just spirals out of control from a thought that I should not have taken on as an identity.
Isn't it correct? And I think people will also look for situations to validate that thought.
Oh my gosh. 100%. You will look for evidence to prove that you are a bad mom. The world will reflect back to you what you think. So another example is like, if you think you're not good with money, guess what the world's going to reflect back to you?
Oh, yeah.
This is something you and I talk about pretty often.
Yeah.
Yeah, money. We like to talk about money. But if I think I'm not good with money, I'm not good with numbers, I don't know what I'm doing, I make bad decisions, the world is absolutely going to reflect that back to you because it's going to be looking for evidence to prove that you are correct.
Sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Every single time. So I ask you, why in the name of Mike would you want the world to reflect back to you that you're bad with money? Why would you want to look for evidence to support that thought? That sounds insane, doesn't it?
It does. When you break it down like that, yes, it does.
But that's exactly what we're doing. If you think that you're not beautiful, the world will reflect back to you because that's the filter you're seeing everything through. So even if someone walked up to you and said, "Oh my goodness, you're so beautiful," you wouldn't be able to receive it because your identity, your belief is in the exact opposite.
Wow.
It's like mind-blowing.
It's
These
mind
thoughts
blowing.
are being reflected. Your thoughts are creating your entire life. What you think of you, what you think of the world, what you think is possible, it's all creating your reality. And the problem is you're thinking automatic thoughts that you're not even questioning, and most of them are not serving you. So, okay, listen, some might, maybe you're exceptional and you think nothing but good thoughts. Congratulations. You're some sort of anomaly. I don't know. But for most normal people like myself, the thoughts are usually automatic and they're negative. And then I look to the world to prove, oh, I'm not beautiful. Oh, I'm not good with money. Oh, I'm a bad mom. And then you wonder why you stay stuck.
Well, and we have no shortage of ways to put this stuff into our brains, social media, the news.
It's being fed to you from every direction. So I want everyone to show themselves some grace. This is not your fault. None of
Good
this is
news,
your
good
fault.
news for you today. This is not
Yeah.
your fault.
It is not your fault, and you should not use this information to beat yourself up because some of you will take this information and say, oh my gosh, well, my reality sucks. And now Heather's saying I created it, which means I suck, which is, by the way, another thought. And then you use it to judge yourself for what you've created. No, 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 no. No, my friends, this is just information to help you become more aware of the reality you're creating. And I want you to just start paying attention to what you're thinking on an automatic basis and then question it. Like, is that really true? Am I really a bad mom? Your brain's going to be like, yes, you are. And here's proof. But you could say, well, I have counter evidence to that. Like when somebody tells me they're not good with money, I'm always like, oh my gosh, are you homeless? Are you are you without shelter and food and water? And they laugh,
Right.
and they're like, no, of course not. And then I say, have you ever been? And most people I know are privileged enough to have never been homeless, but so okay, so why would you say you're not good with money then? That doesn't even make sense to me. Are you telling me that you have always lived in shelter? Okay. Then you must know something about money. So,
True.
okay, what are your thoughts about all of that? Thoughts about thoughts.
Well, and I think it takes practice. Would you agree?
Mm.
To become number one, aware,
Mm-hmm.
because thoughts can happen on a couple of different levels, consciously, subconsciously. It takes practice to become aware of these thoughts.
For sure.
Right. It's just not going to happen overnight. I mean, this is something you have to work on.
Yeah, you have to become aware of what you're telling yourself specifically about you. So I'm trying to think of an example. Maybe you can play along as well. What thought did you have today? Can you think of a thought that you had today that you maybe weren't aware of or didn't question?
Well, I went to the gym and had a great time. I mean, help me out here. Is that a thought? I'm feeling good.
That's a good thought. I think that serves you because it feels good. But have you ever gone to the gym or done a workout that's been challenging and you've had a different thought?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's one of those?
I'm not strong. I'm
I'm
not in
not strong.
shape.
I can't do this. I'm too old for this.
I'm
not
too old for this.
flexible.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I probably said something like that today. Like I'm too old for, and I don't have a reference point, but I feel like I probably did. and that's just doesn't feel good and it doesn't serve me to think it. Now, here's the kicker. Here's where you can get kind of tangled up is people will say, yeah, Heather, but it's true.
Okay.
So like you have this thought. What's a good one? We need to come up with an example here. Like, we need an example. What's a thought that you've had that doesn't feel good, doesn't serve you, but you're like, well, dang, it's true.
Okay. So my business is not as far along as so and so's, or it's not as far along as I want it to be.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So the thought is my business is not as far along as I would like it to be. And how does that feel?
Not good.
No, terrible. And then, we build actions and results come from that. By the way, we'll talk about that in a future episode, how that sort of plays out into your results, because we actually have a formula for it. But okay, so you're thinking you're not as far along as you should be, feels like crap. So you want to tell me what? That's true, Heather. I have proof.
Right. I can show you my profit and loss.
Oh, and you think it should be like a different number. You think it
I
should be
I do.
right. Okay, but it feels like crap. But the truth is this. But really, the truth is there's a certain number on that profit loss, and you have a thought about it. And then that thought causes the feeling. And the thought may be true, but if it doesn't feel good to think it, why would you think it? Like, for instance, there are children dying all over the world from starvation. That's a thought that's actually true.
Correct.
Does it feel good to think it?
No.
No. Now, that doesn't mean you don't serve and you don't give where you can, of course, but it's not something you ruminate on a daily basis, because you would feel awful constantly that that's happening.
Agreed.
So you just don't choose to think it. So let's go back to your example. Profit loss has a number. You think a certain, but listen, let's say your profit, we're just making this up, everybody. This is made up. Let's say your profit loss set $120,000 on like top line revenue. And you're looking at that and you're like, I'm not as far as long as I should be, because I think I should be at 150 or 200 or whatever. But then another photographer comes along and they've just started. What do you think they would think about 120,000 in top line revenue of their profit loss?
Yeah. They would be, well, I guess they could have a couple thoughts about it. They could be inspired by it.
But I mean, what if it were theirs? What if it was
Oh my God, if
business?
they had just started, they would be, I'm sure they would be elated
And why would they be elated?
because that's quite a milestone.
Yeah, well, they would be thinking, I'm further along than I thought.
Exactly.
I'm amazing. I must be so brilliant. I'm so far along. They would feel elated, but it's the same number.
Exactly.
So I was watching a coaching call recently with another entrepreneur acquaintance of mine, and she was almost in tears. She was so upset because last year she only hit 500,000. And she's
okay.
like telling the coach, she's like, I've been in business 6 years. I only hit 500,000. I should be further along. And I'm watching this call with my mouth agape because I'm like, I would do anything for a 500K business. And I've been in business 20 years. Her and I have very, very different thoughts about $500,000. To me, that is like amazing and a ton of money. Oh my gosh, let's go. And she was literally crying over it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Why?
Same number.
Same number.
So why does that happen?
Because of our thoughts. We have thoughts about it. But we get to choose those thoughts. And she's choosing to see that number as a sign of failure in her business.
Right.
Where if I had that number, I would like to believe that I would choose to see it as a sign of success in my business.
So was she able to change her thoughts about that 500,000?
Oh, she worked her way. I actually sent her a message and I said, hey. I was like, that comment was lost on me. I like jokingly, and we had a conversation, but the coach helped her to see it differently. Yeah. Because here's the thing. If you stay in that, that like deficit, that scarcity, that I'm not where I'm supposed to be, you're just going to feel awful and nothing gets created. Abundance does not get created from lack.
Correct.
Money does not get created from you thinking I'm not good with money or I'm terrible with money. So for anyone who has that thought, and a lot of people do, I would love for you to think I'm good with money. I'm a good steward. I know what I'm doing. But if you're not there yet because you think, oh, that's not believable, that's not true, and I have proof that I'm bad with money, then let's find like what I call a bridge or a ladder thought that you could believe. Like, I'm making money. Or I'm responsible for money because money comes in, money goes out. So I have agency.
Okay.
That thought is better than I'm terrible with money.
So, number one, you're becoming aware of this thought. And then number two, you're changing that thought.
Yes. I mean, if you can. And sometimes it's challenging because it feels true or you just want to hang on to it, but just know that it's possible to change the thought. It's
Or
possible. Like a great
possible to
example is
change it or even reframe it.
reframe
Maybe.
it. Yes. It's possible that is within your control and power to do so. And you don't have to understand this or embrace it all just yet. It does take some practice, as Karen will attest to over time. But like, for instance, someone trying to lose weight might tell themselves that they're fat. They might say, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat. And it feels awful to them because they want to be fit and they want to be lean. So if they think the thought, I am fat, it feels awful, right? But they can't think that they're fit and lean because they're not. That's not believable. So we can't jump to a thought like that because it feels disingenuous.
Got it. Okay.
But they could bridge that thought and think, okay, I have a body. So I'm not to the point where I'm saying I'm fit and I'm lean and I love my body. I'm not saying that. But I'm not saying I'm fat because that makes me feel terrible. I'm saying I have a body. So it's this like bridge to like a thought that feels better. So, listen, if you want to walk around all day saying, I love money, I'm great with money, I promise you that the world will reflect that back to you.
Right.
If you want more money, just start thinking that you're good with money.
Okay. So the person who thinks they're fat, okay, I have a body.
I have a body.
And I can move it.
And perfect. Brilliant. And then you just do that. And then you're working your way towards a thought that feels better and that serves you.
Sort of like little baby steps.
Kind of. Yeah. Because your brain isn't going to want to jump to like, I can't jump to the thought I make $500,000 because I don't. But I could think I'm growing my business and I'm excited to build a $500,000 business or $1 million business, whatever your dream is. Like I can think I'm excited to grow my business. I'm excited to learn what's next for me. And that feels good. And that motivates me into action.
Yeah, for sure.
But
as opposed to staying stuck. So people can choose to stay stuck in their thoughts too.
They can, and here's the key. It's a choice.
Yeah.
If you're thinking the same thoughts over and over and you're hearing my voice, you're going to have to take some responsibility for thinking those thoughts.
Yeah, that is key, that you may not be able to control a lot in this world. We can't control the economy. We cannot control what our neighbors do. We cannot control what our clients do to an extent. We cannot control what our friends and family do, but we can control our thoughts.
We can once we're aware. So
once we're aware.
I'm very careful here because people learning this for the first time tend to use it against themselves as if they should never think bad thoughts or they can control it. No. Your thoughts are still enough. I've probably had 50,000 thoughts today that didn't serve me today. I'm just becoming more adept and aware at catching them and being like, that doesn't, like, I might think, I probably did have this thought today, or at least I've definitely had it within the last few days of I'm behind.
Right.
So when I'm thinking the thought, this is key too. I am behind. I am bad with money is an identity because you're saying it after the words I am. I am behind. I'm claiming as my identity. But if I say I'm thinking the thought that I'm behind, that actually gives me a little bit of separation between myself and the thought so that I don't identify as being the thought.
Exactly.
But I'm now the thinker of that thought. There's a difference.
Huge difference. And I love, you've talked about this before about anxiety. It's running rampant in our society today. And there's a big distinction of I have anxious thoughts versus I am an anxious person.
That's right. It's key. My daughter struggles with anxious thoughts. And I've taught her this recently. And she'll call me and she'll say, oh my gosh, I'm so anxious. And then she'll catch it. And she'll say, I'm I'm having some anxious thoughts. Because she has learned that tiny bit of separation is incredibly empowering. Because now it's not an identity.
Now it's not an identity, correct?
And I don't have to believe it.
And it's all just change a couple sentences, a couple words in a sentence that comes out of your mouth versus I have anxious thoughts versus I'm an anxious person.
I have on the background of my desktop on my monitor, I have words matter. Words matter. I'm certified in neuro-linguistic programming and cognitive behavioral therapy. And this is a lot of what we're taught in those modalities is like words matter. It is a really big deal how you say things. So if you say, I am thinking that I am bad with money. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm thinking it. And I don't need to believe it. And I can look for evidence to the contrary. I mean, you can look for evidence either way. What do you want to support? Because what you focus on, you will feel. And Tony Robbins says this, what you focus on will grow. So I don't want to think negatively about myself, even though my brain's going to offer me, this is what my brain does. You're behind and you're a loser, you stupid idiot.
Your brain takes it and compounds it.
I mean, for real. And so that's what my brain offers me on the regular. I have to just catch it. And I chuckle now and I'm like, okay, that's not true. I'm exactly where I need to be. And I'm getting ahead every day because I like to be ahead, whatever that even means, by the way. I make that up. Everything's made up. I'm getting ahead. I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm doing a good job. I actually walk around here. I learned this. Oh, what was that book? You and I read it. Was it in John Acuff's book, the goal book we just read, or?
All it takes is a goal.
Yeah, I think this is him who said this. And if it isn't, forgive me. But it was like, you say out loud, good job, Karen. Like everything you do, I walk around this house, I, straighten something up, I pick something up. I'm good job, Heather. Like encouraging myself and being aware of my thoughts. Listen, you could literally change your life starting today by just catching a couple of them.
Yes, 100%.
And telling yourself a better story.
Well, and there's such power in those two words, I am. It is present tense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the past. It's not in the future. I am. It is today.
And it's identity.
Correct.
So what do you want to think about money?
Well, it's funny. One of my little things that pops up on my phone, my kids actually saw it over Christmas and laughed at me. But it is, I am wealth. I am abundance. I am joy.
I love that. That's from Happy Pocket Full of Money, a book that we read. It is like wacky, but I walk around saying I am wealth, I am abundance, I am joy all the time because of that book.
Yes.
And is it any wonder both of us are in multi-six-figure businesses now? Interesting. I also tell myself, because I had this thought I didn't realize I was having years ago, that like, if I made more money, like, could I really handle that? Would I know what I was doing? How would I manage the taxes? Just all of the like doubt. I had some doubt. So I started telling myself, I am a good steward of money. I'm a good steward. I make good choices because money comes into a business and you've got to make choices and decisions about how to allocate those funds. There are funds, that you allocate for taxes, that you invest in the business. There's an owner's draw, there's savings, there's retirement, there's all of these places your money needs to go. And if you tell yourself that you're not good with money and you can't be trusted, that money will not come in because you are blocking it.
Right. It's about it's being reflected back to you in the universe.
Every time, everything that you're thinking. So if you walk around thinking, I'm awesome, I'm great with money, I'm beautiful, I'm smart, I'm funny, like whatever. I mean, if you're going to use these identity statements, right? Use them in your favor. Things will turn around for you. You just don't have to believe everything your brain offers you. You just could question it. And, John Acuff says in that book, one of his books, he says, is it true? Is it kind? Is it helpful?
Right. I think that was soundtracks.
Yes. So and it might be true, but it might not serve you to think it. So Why would you think that? Like, I don't need to think about it. I can choose to think something else. But you are not your thoughts. You're not your thoughts. And you get to decide I always say, like, everybody just listens to their brain. Their brain offers them all of this information, and you just take it at face value, believe it. No, 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 no. Stop listening to your brain and start talking to it.
Exactly. Start talking to it. Or what I found myself doing lately is especially since the kids have moved out of the house, I talk to myself out loud.
I do too. Me too. Yeah.
I carry on a conversation with my thoughts out loud.
It's pretty funny. But I actually think it's helpful because then your brain knows you mean business. Wow, she's talking out loud. Woo, I better sit down and shut up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I do. I talk to myself out loud now. When I have a thought, we'll have a conversation about it out loud, back and forth.
Does your brain ever offer you, mine does this one, I don't know, tell me I'm not alone. My brain tries to tell me I'm lazy.
Really?
Yeah. Right. And I know that is not true. I am one of the hardest working persons that I know. So I know that's not true, but it tries to, like, if I take a break, it tries to tell me that I'm being lazy.
Oh, you mean for like a little downtime?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've had to say, no, I work very hard and this is restorative. I need
exactly.
Yeah. I need this
your
time.
body and your mind need that downtime.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and really there's not a lazy bone in my body. So for my brain to even offer me that is quite hilarious. But for years, I believed it. I just didn't even question it. What a jerk my brain is, huh? Like, why? It's a circus in there, Karen.
It is a circus. Oh my gosh, this has been so good. I love our conversations, and you have been instrumental in my mind circus event that goes on daily. So I'm super excited about this podcast and just talking to people about what goes on in your mind. Let's talk about it because it is a circus and we can learn to control it. And when we can learn to control it, just about anything's possible.
Oh my gosh, it opens up like anything. It's just like unlimited possibilities. It's so empowering. When you first told me about this concept, I just could not get over your brilliance.
Oh, geez, thanks.
The way you took what is happening and you gave it this metaphor so we could visualize it, I think was super helpful because now we have you and I and your listeners have this like common language where I'm like, you will not believe the circus today. Welcome to the party.
Welcome to the party. Yep. Welcome to the circus.
Yeah, it's on. And I'm not currently the ringmaster, so I've got some work to do.
Well, and if you've been to a circus, it was actually my first date with my husband. We went to the circus and just like the chaos. The trapeze artists, the elephants, the ladies on the horses. I mean, and then into the ring steps the ringmaster, and you're on your edge of the seat to see what happens next.
I love that. How ironic that was your first date and this is your podcast.
I know, right? And I actually still remember he bought me a little red and yellow monkey on a stick. I know that you could make do tricks. Yeah.
How many years ago was that?
Oh, we've been married 31 years, so probably 35 years ago.
Yeah. And now you have this podcast about the circus. I think that's beautiful. Like, that's really neat how that came full circle.
Yes. And, and as we wrap up here, I think, why would you want to stay prisoner to your thoughts? Or why, like, why would you want to take on that identity?
Yeah.
Because our mind, the purpose of our mind is to keep us safe, is to keep you stuck. It's that primeval, wants to keep us safe, wants us to avoid fear. And, that's a whole nother podcast about fear, but your mind is a very, very powerful thing. And when you can learn to use it to your advantage, harness it and use it to your advantage instead of disadvantage. Like I said,
out. There's nothing you can't do, for real. And you and I are both living proof of that.
Yes. Love it.
Love it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being on today. So if somebody wants to learn a little bit more about what you offer, where can they find you?
Thank you. They can find me at flourish.academy on the interwebs, but I also have a podcast, the Flourish Academy podcast, where I focus on mindset. You and I are interested in very similar ideas because we love the mind. And you can find me on Instagram at Flourish Academy. But I would say I'm most active on Facebook and on my podcast.
Cass, I actually love your podcast.
Thank you.
I'm a regular listener. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks for all the great content you produce. And thanks for being an awesome coach.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Mind Circus. We'd love you to share this episode and inspire someone else to become the ringmaster of their mind circus. So to learn more, go to themindcircus.com. And with the simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back. And remember, be the ringmaster of your own mind circus.